You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, I am so excited because I have Basiliso Moreno on the line and he's here to talk to us about life insurance. Now, I know you're like, well, Tiffany, we have talked about life insurance on this podcast too many times. Maybe. However, we're talking about how to initiate the conversation with loved ones without them thinking you're trying to kill them. So, hey, Basiliso, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And I know, go ahead.
But that is it's funny, but it's so real, and that's a conversation that needs to be had. That's a myth in our Black and Brown communities of like, why are we talking about life insurance? You trying to kill me or something? And you got your family members all paranoid and like, no, we're not trying to kill you, but it is important to have these conversations because death is extremely expensive. Unfortunately, I've had to use life insurance death policies on a couple of occasions. I lost my ex-wife and mom of my kids in 2016, and then during COVID in 2020, I lost my mom as a result of COVID. So even within our Black and Brown communities, our parents, our aunts and uncles, like they might have an insurance, and they might be paying a monthly premium months at a time, and then unfortunately when they pass, and then you see how much is the death benefit, it was like you paid all these months for all these years, and this is the amount you got back. Like what the heck? So which happened to me with my mom. So it's something that needs to be having. We need to have these conversations.
Yeah, for sure. And you hopping right in, which I appreciate because it's like you said, these conversations are difficult to have with people. Like as financial professionals, we can have these conversations pretty easily. But with other people, like for instance, with my ex-husband, I had brought up, oh, you need life insurance. And his first thing was, oh, you trying to kill me? I'm like, no, I have life insurance for myself. You need it for yourself. Even if we wasn't married, you would still need life insurance. Mm-hmm. So I feel like those conversations are just difficult to have. From a personal standpoint, you want your loved ones protected and you want the best for them, but they might not see it as that. So with that being said, what is one way we can kind of ease into that conversation if we're going, talking to someone with that mindset?
Well, for me, what I do with my clients, being a certified financial social worker for people of color in the sandwich generation who are struggling with their finances while caregiving for their loved ones. Sometimes I do some role playing, like, hey, I'll pretend you're your mom and you want to have a conversation. Like, let's do some role playing and kind of see where it goes and how you want to talk about. And just sometimes you got to use like real life experiences. Oh, so-and-so, I know recently I saw somebody posted on LinkedIn that they lost a loved one and they're doing a GoFundMe. And it was like, we need, and there's no shade to anyone who uses GoFundMe, but, life insurance is not that expensive. It doesn't matter if it's term or whole life, and we need to stop the myths or it's too expensive or things of that nature. Like the earlier you start, the better it is, and the less expensive it is. But I've done some role playing, or just even like, hey, like, just how do you think in your head? Like, just even like talk to me your anxiety of having these conversations. Why, like, what makes you anxious to have this conversation? What is it about the person that you want to have the conversation with, like, makes you worried or anxious? What do you think they're going to say? Or just normalizing the person's anxiety, their nervousness, their fear. They might be talking to someone, a family member who, just kind of stubborn and hard-headed and just, but these conversations need to be had because anything can happen at any single time. at any part of the day, the person's life, and you don't want to get that phone calls like so and so passed away, and then there's like nothing, and now you're scrambling to trying to find how I'm going to bury this person. Did the person even want to be buried? Or did they have any any sort of like investments or just anything? Did they have a will in place or anything like that? Especially after we just went through a whole pandemic, going on 5 years ago, and we still and dealing with that aftermath of that, and we need to be having these conversations.
Yeah, and I love that tip, just having these open and honest conversations, using role playing maybe with yourself or with someone else other than the loved one, just to get the jitters out. But I also love your tip about seeing what their hesitation is. Like, is it that there was a traumatic experience having to deal with life insurance? Like, where is this anxiety coming from? And I feel like that is key right there because, as we both know, money is not really, it's more emotional than anything. Mm-hmm. So there may be a good reason why they don't want to have the conversation. And I think getting to that reason may help with the conversation that you need to have. Now, what if we have someone that they're like, they're not afraid to talk about it, but maybe they have hesitations like, oh, it's too expensive, or what do I even need it for? I don't have any kids or, property, things like that. What if that's part of the conversation or hesitation?
I mean, yeah, I see that hesitation, talking to different people, but with myself, like, since I've focused primarily on caregivers, I don't. Sometimes I see that hesitation. Like, no, you need it. I'd be like, you need it for yourself. You need it for your family members. You need it for your loved ones. You need it for your kids, even though they're young. Like, you just have to have it, and then kind of go from having to have it to just kind of break it down. Like, okay, like, if you were to pass away, like, and you, whatever you have, and who do you want to have? If you have any valuables, like, who would you want to have that property, or just in general, who do you want to handle your affairs? Like, how do you like want your funeral to how you want it to look like even having those conversations, be like, why are we having these type of conversations? Like, because you want to pass away with dignity, and not just like, all right, whatever, you died, all right, we're moving on. Like, no, like, we can't. Everyone is entitled to have the dignity that once they pass away, to properly do a proper burial, however they want to be buried, or even like cremated and things like that. I know for my ex-wife, like, she wanted to be cremated. She just kind of, her health was deteriorating, so she knew, like, I ain't going to be here much longer, but please, whatever you do, like, I wanted to be cremated. So that's what I did when she passed, and just letting her mother know, like, hey, she wanted to be cremated. Let's kind of do that and honor her wishes. So it's important to even like having those conversations about what are your wishes. Like, yeah, nobody wants to talk about death, but just kind of like break it down, even like from a financial aspect, or like, death is expensive. Like, funeral homes, like, even like the worst one on the block is still gonna cost you $7,000-8,000. With caskets and everything, and just the time to have your body in a funeral home. So, like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? You brought up a really good point at the beginning that I kind of want to circle back around to too, where you said, they've been paying on it for years, and then maybe they lapsed payment, or maybe they took loans out on it. So, the amount is not as much as it should be. How often do you think we should bring up these conversations? Because what if we bring it up 1 year and it's like, oh yeah, I got life insurance, I'm paying on it. Then like 3 years down the line, lo and behold, because we ran into that with my grandma when she passed away. She had took out some loans and stuff on her policies that we had no idea. And so, we're thinking, okay, we can use this to round up her expenses and things like that. And then we're like, oh, it's not as much as we thought. So how often should we be having these conversations with our loved ones?
At the bare minimum, I would say like once a year. Best case scenario, you could do like maybe every 6 months, just kind of see where things are at. If something drastically changes, like you're moving out of state, you got a new home, or any major finances have changed, obviously you would have those type of conversations then. I know for myself with my mom is just, unfortunately, some life insurance companies, they take advantage of people's lack of financial educations. Like somebody thinks they just have a life insurance policy. All right, at least I got something. As far as I know, my mom didn't take out a loan or anything. She just didn't. She knew enough financial education to have a life insurance policy, and she took one out on me, but really didn't get more bang for her buck, and she just didn't know of hey, the math ain't really mathing when I pass away. This is all my son's gonna get. It's like this is not gonna cover like anything. So and those things happen too. So it's a lot that involves with life insurance. I'm still learning about life insurance myself, and knowing that I'm still kind of underinsured myself, even though I'm a lot better off today than I was 4 or 5 years ago, or even a couple of years ago, but still not enough that life changes. Like I just bought a house, or maybe I need to get some type of insurance that, God forbid, something happens to me. At least the mortgage payments, there's enough money for the mortgage payments to take place, or just pay off the house. And so it all depends. Like each person's situation is different, which is why we call it personal finance.
Right, exactly. And so I'm glad you brought up kids and parents, because another difficult conversation I just thought about is if it's the person that has the life insurance policy, maybe they need to, they need to tell whoever is the beneficiary that they're on it, and who's not a beneficiary that they're not on it. So that could be a difficult conversation as well. Do you have any tips around that? So let me rephrase. I have a life insurance policy. Now I need to tell my kids, okay, you're the one that's going to be the primary, you're the secondary, so on and so forth. How do we have those conversations? What are some tips around that?
Wow. That's a good question. And I say wow because unfortunately I've had to have, tough conversations with my own kids, telling your kids that your mom passed away is probably as worse as probably the toughest conversation you have. And then, then I found it more difficult, side note, talking about, sex education for both of them. I found that much harder to have than telling their mom they passed. But, going back to the topic of life insurance, the importance of beneficiaries. When you first said that, I thought about, okay, well, what if you get divorced and now you got you remarry, you got to and your first wife or husband was an initial beneficiary. You don't want that person to have the money anymore, and I gotta go change the beneficiary. So, but yeah, just you got to start teaching your kids as young as they can, and obviously there's a fine line which how much they can handle, how much you can tell the truth, and for me personally, I'm like, if I tell you your mom passed away, I could pretty much tell you like anything moving forward. And when I've had tough conversations, be and I start off I know we've had tough conversations before, but we need to have another tough conversation and kind of like, speak to their age and their understanding. Nobody knows your kids better than you as the parent or guardian. How, if they can handle it, have these conversations. If you feel like they can't handle it, kind of wait, but still kind of let them know, like, hey, like, I'm doing this and this is why. Do you have any questions? And kind of be like, no, like, all right, I'm just letting you know, like, this is happening. Or tell them, like, if you have your important papers, like, tell them where it is, like, anything, like, just in case, even there's a fire or any other emergency in the house, like, make sure you grab these papers and get to safety. So, yeah, just like literally you got to start from somewhere and have these conversations and make sure that their names and their legal names are on these documents when you do these beneficiaries. And I think that's more important, or just as important, than actually having the conversation of being a beneficiary.
Right. Because you cannot put Ray and Pookie on the paperwork. It got to be full government name, so that way the company can issue the payments to the right people. So I'm glad you brought that up as well. Now, you've dropped a ton of gems on this episode. Where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about life insurance, or they're part of the sandwich generation and want to connect?
Yes, for those who are in that sandwich generation and are struggling with caregiving, and I know there's been a lot in the news with the last 6 months of what the former vice president had wanted to do if she became president, and what the current administration had talked about wanting to do in terms of caregiving. But just the day-to-day struggles, if you're struggling, and just people really need just the acknowledgement, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. You could reach me. My website is basmorenoconsulting.com. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, TikTok at Bass Moreno Consulting. That is all one word. And let's connect. Let's talk. I'm currently offering a 25-minute free consultation on just what your current struggles are and how we could try to address your needs that you have on a day-to-day basis in terms of caregiving and your finances.
Perfect. And if you didn't catch all of that, I'll make sure I have it in the show notes. So definitely check those out. Thank you so much, Bass, for coming on the show today. This was a great episode, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of people.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.